All right, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of Naked Sunday. I'm your host, Caleb Nelson. I mean, we're at an interesting one here. it's like life is starting over again. In the end, go back to the beginning. And here we are, my dear friend Jason Ackerman, back on the show. Thanks for coming back, brother.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's been a while. Many things have happened since the last time your sweet sounds of your voice have graced this platform.
What's happened?
I don't know what has happened, man. You tell me.
I don't remember the last time I was on, so we have to set that.
Pretty sure you had a child. So there's
okay. So before what happens is once you've had a child, all your listeners know your memory goes. So if it was before that, yes, pretty substantial life happenings going on here.
Yeah, I'm loving it, man. I'm excited that we're having another chat. Since your last time on here, obviously I've taken this whole thing in an interesting direction and put my own twist in wherever it is. But one of the things that I've been most happy to introduce to this show is how I start it nowadays. And I start every episode with why I appreciate and why I love my guest, because I think that's a good place to start. I think we need to start doing that more in this world. And I think it's a great place for us to start in what, dare I say, the pursuit of world peace. So what you don't know, when I reached out to you the other day, I was thinking deeply about probably the last conversation we had before you and I had our fallout. And I had this very brash statement of, I remembered the first day I met you and I was like, I'm here to teach you a lesson. And I'm in an interesting place in my life right now where I'm realizing people in my life are a mirror and my own words are usually actually what I need to be hearing in the first place. So one of the reasons why I love you, my friend, is that one of the lessons you have taught me through my own journey, whether you were there or not, was an act of learning how to forgive and love and come to terms with things. And I think that moment in my life where we went our separate ways for a bit was a really important effort in me going on what I call my journey inward. That was amplified by my father almost dying and a bunch of other things. But whether you ever knew it or not, you were not far from my mind. And many of the times and places we had been, figuratively and literally, they stayed with me, and I think about them often. So wanted to share that with you.
Well, I genuinely appreciate that. You have certainly, over the last couple of years since we've been chatting more, opened me up to be more vulnerable, maybe is a good word, vulnerable, but communication, remembering, hey, this could be the last opportunity you have to speak with someone. So I think it's been, and I think a lot of that comes from maturity as well, getting older and now having a, daughter. But I appreciate it. I appreciate hearing that. It's always nice to hear nice things. I think we forget that.
I'm glad to share it with you, man. I'm glad to hear that, that Naked Sunday is really all about becoming vulnerable and being truthful with ourselves. And I'm a firm believer, like, until you are, true growth cannot happen because you are building on a faulty foundation because you're not going all the way to the root. So I feel very honored to be able to be a part of that in any small way. Tell us, since our last thing, obviously, since now you've had a child and you have this affiliate youth thing, you got a lot of stuff going on. Clue us in on where the life has taken you, because you and I have not, we talk more frequently than we did, obviously, for the 7 years before that. You've been busy. You've got a lot in tow, and I know you're doing your best to serve a lot of people. So tell us where you've been, man.
Well, I think it starts with the baby. Madison is going to be 16 months in June. And that changes everything for sure. Having a child, you have to put yourself second, which isn't always easy. And I think, full disclosure, I think there's a balance. I think you can take that to the extreme. I think I've seen parents that put everything in their kid and then don't take care of themselves. And as I'm sure you talk about frequently, you have to put your mask on first. So there's a balance to it, though. Like, yes, I want to take care of myself, but when your baby's covered in poop, you have to, you have to prioritize, if you will. So it's changed my life. I never thought I would love being a parent as much as I do. I love the time with her. Like, you cannot multitask when you have a baby. She's not very smart, to be honest. Like, she's a little slow, I think. I can't tell just yet, but she's well aware of when I'm not giving her 100% of my attention. I can tell you that.
That
And
might have been the most Jason Ackerman thing I've ever heard anybody ever say.
well, my wife Roz is very concerned about this. And she's like, she's slow, she's developmentally. First of all, in 16 months, there's such a wide range. Like 10% of your life is quite some time. So, is she gonna, she's walking later than, okay, now she's walking, she's running, she winds up doing everything. But I told her, I was like, hey, I think the most growth and development I had in my life was the last 4 years. So she's got some time. I was like, she's got some time before we have to be so concerned. It's easy. Like, the pediatrician's like, does she do this? Does she do that? And like, Roz is hypercritical of it. So I'm like, I don't think she's actually slow. I think you're just super judgmental about her abilities.
Well, I got to imagine that's that mama bear thing. And, just from talking to a lot of moms about stuff, like I hear so much about like mom guilt, and I got to imagine like the fear of like, oh my God, if my baby is not okay, like, did I do something wrong, or am I to blame? Or that it's, I can't, it's still mind boggling to me that women build a human inside of them for 9 months. It's insane. Like, it's kind of crazy, but I got to imagine that connection is next level. Like, and that kind of intuition that kind of develops from that. So, more power to her for all that. But I got to imagine like probably where a lot of that sensitivity and like, I don't want my baby to not be okay. That's real.
I tell you what, the craziest thing I've seen in my life is Roz's, evolution from person to mom. And it's like, it shows you even like just my own feeling about Madison and love for her. You're like, oh, my parents feel the same way about me. That's crazy. Like, and it's interesting. I've definitely reflected on that, because I'm like, I'm a turd. Like, why do my parents actually feel this way about me? And I'm like, she's a turd and I feel that way. So, it's, I think there is something to it. There's that unconditional love, but Roz was like a whole nother level. Like, when she's screaming and freaking out, the baby that is, like, Roz is like so patient with her, like, oh, this. And I'm like, I want to throw her into the wall right now. Can I just, and you don't, but the moms are a whole nother level, is what I've realized.
Love and empathy, man. It's a wild thing. Women are I think are more hardwired initially to understand like that's where it's at. So
it's innate, I believe. It was just like, it was a hard change when she did that.
With that, like, obviously like your marriage had to change in some way. Like, it's a new thing and you have a new variable. And I think it also bleeds into an idea of like, how did it also change you as a business owner? I'd be curious to hear like both things. Like, how do you see yourself evolving?
I think, for one, you certainly have, like you said, empathy, not just for every, certainly parents. Like, I think that was something you and I were not aware of when we were at Albany CrossFit, or, coaching back then. Like, I think we thought we kind of got it. Like, Laura Mirkovich comes to mind, where it's like, she had 3 kids at the time and we were just like, all right, cool, suck it up and go. Right. And you're just like, oh, wait, she's got so much happening. Any parent, that's just one example, but, really thinking about it from that perspective. And yeah, I think just, seeing the ability to have an impact on another human being and caring so much about someone, like, it's hard to be a jerk to other people when that part of you opens. Well, I'm sure some people would argue I'm still a jerk to them, but it's coming from a better place. It's coming from a nicer place.
Is somebody taking a gentle chisel to you and wearing away at that hard exterior?
Slowly. I mean, yeah, she'll like do something and you're like, oh my God, this is the nicest thing that, that you've ever experienced. Like, something subtle, like, pick me up, put your head on, when she puts your head on your shoulders, all those little things are incredible. And like I said, it makes you really think back. I'm like, oh, my parents love me this much. Like, that's impossible. But you're like, no, like I'm not special. All people, your parents, it's a weird feeling. It's a strange emotion.
Has it actually changed the relationship with your parents?
Hmm. Yeah, I think of course it has. I know I have not thought too much about that. I think them seeing me, become a father changes a little bit, changes some of the things. And, you connect with them a little bit more because you want to make sure that they, see Madison, whether it's through FaceTime or pictures. So you wind up communicating with them a little more than maybe we would have in the past.
You're seeing that there's a positive effect from like maintaining the relationship.
Oh yeah, of course. Big time. Big time.
Almost like what you perhaps, if I'm, maybe I'm crazy to say this, but like perhaps like how you might want to treat a client.
Yeah, no, I think, you definitely, look at, it's impossible not to look at everybody through a new lens. But yeah, even though one of the things, with best hour of their day and affiliate you is we've talked recently about, compassion for others, and whether it's your own clients, whether it's other people, in the CrossFit space right now, there's quite a few people saying negative things about CrossFit as always, but it's growing, and it's very easy. Just had a conversation today with, a bunch of coaches where it's like easy to get sucked into that. Or you look at it, with what can I be doing better to either educate those people or educate the people that they're reaching to. And very rarely is fighting on the internet the best answer for that.
Well, here's an interesting other perspective on that. How are they also listening to those critiques?
Those other people?
Like,
yeah, well, I just ignored them, to be fully transparent. Like I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I don't have time for you. Like, and I think that's okay too. Like too many people, this is changing topics a little bit. People like to fight on the internet. I think there's some fulfillment in that. I get no fulfillment out of it, only aggravation. And more importantly, tying these two topics in together, it's time away from the more important things. Like me arguing with someone online, it was that moment. I was like, I remember it was like, getting towards evening when I wrap up in the basement where I am now. And I'm like, oh, I'm sitting on the, couch fighting with someone online where I should be upstairs spending time with the baby. And I'm like, where is, there's no, in my values, after health and family does not come fighting on the internet. Right. So I'm like, where does this fit in my life? Oh, it doesn't. So let's just stop doing it. And things you and I have spoken about in the past, but for me, it just became black and white. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. It's like, there's that gray, there's zero gray. You argue with me on the internet, you get zero response, nothing, like nothing you can say, I might, and I can tell the trolls versus like people that are just a different viewpoint. But even those, I'm just like, not that there's anything wrong with what you're saying to me. I just don't have time. And I think when a lot of people, they don't have that strong rule. So it's like, well, but if they say this, I can fight with them. And I'm like, no, you can say whatever you want. I'm too, and I just look at it where it's like, I'm too busy serving and helping people. And there's nothing about arguing with you here. You're taking away from my ability to do that. And let's be honest, the only reason you and I are anywhere near where we are successful in this world is because we can connect with other people. So I'm like, well, do I choose to connect positively or negatively? And I'm choosing to connect positively.
I think there's a lot to be said in that, and it's specifically around the word choice. I think a lot of people offload the burden of choice to somebody else, and then they're surprised when it doesn't line up with what they say they want. So it's like, I don't want to make the choice. I don't want to take the responsibility for making this choice, but that is making a choice. That's making a choice to say, I'm going along with whatever somebody else's priority list is and their narrative. And more than likely, it's probably not going to be all that you want. So accept that.
it's very rare that someone you're fighting with on the internet's like, oh, you changed my mind. So knowing that, so it's like, what do you, you're just fulfilling your own ego. Like, I need to win this. I need to have the last word. And I'm just like, you know what the better last word is? Happiness. Well, you can clip that. You clip that for your post.
That'll be the promo material right there. The best last word is just being happy and being all good on you in the end.
You clip that. I will share that.
There we go. Of course you will. I was just talking with Manny the other day because I went over to his place and you were talking. I was like, for all that Jay is in his life, man, he knows how to promote. He knows how to market. He gets out there and you just go after it. I think I remember once, like, was it you telling a story about Roz when you like pivoted and you started doing something else? It's like, she said, like, there he goes selling air again. Like,
oh yeah, I told you that. Yeah, that was from, but funny enough, that was for my coaches development program. That was like 5 years ago in Florida. I remember that I was like, oh, I'm going to start this, which ultimately led to Best Hour, which ultimately led to Affiliate U, which ultimately led to a better coaches development program that we have running. And, sometimes you just got, this is again, changing topics, but you know me, you got to hit, just like we started this podcast. Look at me. I'm full sweat mode, by the way.
You are sweating.
Is this going on at YouTube?
It's going everywhere, man.
Oh man. Forgive the sweatiness. I was in the steam room like an hour ago, drove home and I'm still sweating.
It's naked Sunday, man. Whatever.
We, for that reason, we, hopped on right at time and I was like, hey, record. That's my, I think that's my life motto. Just hit record. But
I think there's a lot of value in that. I'll elaborate in a second. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, done is better than perfect. You know everything that we've discussed in the past, but yeah, sometimes you just have to put it out there and catch up with yourself. That's another good clip, huh?
Look at you, and just full of taglines today, man.
Yeah, it's like when you're running and you're falling and you're like, I just can't get, like, you get on ice. Like sometimes you just gotta get off balance so you can balance yourself.
That one might have been a stretch, but I see.
Okay, I tried too hard on that one. I tried too hard.
Go too far. You went too far.
Edit that out. Edit that one out.
Well, I do think that there's a little paradigm around that. People are too afraid to start. And I think that's, especially like in the coaching space, I can accredit this, like this podcast. And I'm curious to hear how about you with Best Hour. It's like, this podcast has been a massive vehicle for me discovering my voice and seeing what themes that I come back to. And then as I repeat those themes and elaborate more and dive deeper into it and just get more comfortable saying it, whether it's on a solo or with a guest, it's like you're discovering and you're maturing that voice along the way. And of course, anybody who looks back in the beginning is be like, well, that's subpar. Like, comparatively, and that's why people get all bent out of shape when they just look back. Like, well, you'd hope you grew over time. That's kind of the point. It's practice, and I think there's a lot of courage in being able to sit with that. Like for you, like with Best Hour, I mean, what do you have, 400 some odd episodes, something like that, or maybe am I overshooting by a bit?
No, we're well beyond that. I think we're nearly at 600 these days. Oh, that's what's slowing down. We went from 3 a week for a very long time to 1 to 2 now, because we're trying to go primarily in person as well.
Wow.
Which was really cool, after the last 2 years to, get back into the flow of travel and seeing people and interacting with them directly versus Zoom. September 8th and 9th, just throwing it out there, Dave Matthews Band, Colorado.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yes. September 8th and 9th.
I'm almost positive those are the dates. I don't have tickets yet, so just let me know. We'll go.
Well, there we go. Then we can record a live episode. Is that where you're going with this? That you want me out there for a live episode?
As well as other endeavors, but yes, certainly a live episode. Certainly a live episode.
I engaged in those other endeavors not too long ago either as well. So we won't elaborate on that right now, but yeah, party on, man. Party on. Tell us a little bit. I mean, I know I gave a presentation to your graduates of Affiliate U, and I actually am working with one of your clients, or I don't know if she's still former clients. I think she's still working with you guys. Steph.
Which Steph?
Stephanie Grams.
Oh, from Hawaii.
Yep.
Yeah, she's in our grad program. Oh, awesome. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, she's rad. I've been working with her, I think maybe a month and a half at this point.
She's awesome. That's great to hear. And I think
Yeah.
that's really important. We work with a lot of affiliate owners, and the goal within the year is to get the business, where they want it to. And then for a lot of them, it's like, okay, what now? And now we have to become the person we want to be. Like, the business allows you to showcase who you are, right? Spotlight who you are, and it allows you to be the best version of you. But, we do some continuing ed as well, but I'm glad to hear she's working directly with you. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's been really fantastic. What I'm realizing, especially for me, like actually that interaction between you is like, I realized that's actually my what do I call it? My intervention point. Like, that's the handoff. Like, I'm at that spot where I'd best deal with people. So that was a really cool, enlightening experience, because it's kind of like, not like, well, you're right. Like, you've solved these other problems in life. Now, like, I like to float off into the esoteric and things of that nature. I remember when our first conversation with her, she's like, yeah, like, the first thing I thought about you was like, oh my God, this is like intense. Because for anybody who didn't know, what I presented on was who's holding your hand on your deathbed. Obviously, that's not like light subject matter when you just like open with something like that, but it was really cool. Steph, if you're listening, you're fantastic. I think you're awesome. Like,
Yeah, no, she crushes it. She's doing great out there. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs in general, like, it's very easy to work on a business. It's a lot harder to work on yourself. And then for a lot of entrepreneurs, I think they get to that point where it's like, oh, the business is smooth. What can I do to mess it up so I can go back and work on it? And I'm always trying to remind them, like, or work on yourself. Like, you don't need to add a yoga class. You don't need to add this or that. Like, you just need, the business is running. Like, leave it. Now become a better leader, a better husband, wife, whatever that looks like for you. But you are the 1% of the world that controls their job, at least, right? And which gives you more time to work on yourself. I think entrepreneurs feel like we always need to be chasing something, which is great, but part of what you should be chasing is the best version of yourself.
what do you think the hesitation, and I'd be curious to see if that's something you struggle with yourself as well, is like, what's the hesitation of going ahead and then investing in yourself and like working on just you at that point?
I think it's scary. Number one, right? It's scary for them. Secondly, I think it's not common. So maybe people feel selfish, like, who am I to be working on myself? Or, even working on yourself, there can be some imposter syndrome, right? And also, I think, if I would add one more thing, it's probably less easy to measure, right? Business is easy, more money, more members, whatever that looks like for you, success. But with your own self, it's like, sure, how many books did I read, or how much time did I spend with my baby? Those are, you can quantify some things, but I think when most people are working on themselves, what they're really chasing is, fulfillment, satisfaction, happiness, which is, like I said, hard to measure, but also comes and goes. And I tell that to entrepreneurs all the time, like, oh, I was having such a great week, and now this, or that, now I was having a bad time, now this. Is like, that never changes, right? The dollars change a little bit, like $10,000 might become 100, might become a million, but still, like, you're I think the reason we are entrepreneurs at the root of it is because it's almost like cavemen, right? Like, there's a thrill in the hunt. And I'm saying this for the first time that way, but I think that's part of it, right? Like, we no longer have to hunt. Like, life is very easy. Entrepreneurs choose to have to hunt.
I'm going to play with this one for a second.
All right, yeah, go for it.
I'll share my thoughts, because we haven't talked about this kind of stuff in a bit. In my experience, and a lot of what you're sharing there is a lot of what I think a lot of people do grapple with. There's a couple things that I've been noticing with people I've worked with. Permission seems to be the most common thing, of like, am I allowed to? There's a lot of guilt around, and I think you just said that in some way, shape, or form, or not directly. So I apologize if I miscommunicated or misheard that. There's this guilt. It's almost like the same thing of mom guilt. Am I allowed to like take an hour for myself and just chill and like breathe? And I think there's a lot of difficulty, and you said it best about like with business, it's easy to see the numeric like turnover on that, but how do you quantify happiness? Now, ironically enough, like it's kind of the thing I've been selling of late. It's like, you want a happiness audit? And I know it's a little tongue in cheek. Like, how do you do? Like, I don't want to sell you happiness. Like, I'm not bottling it up, that shit and whatever. But you said the word time. And I think people are not working on defining quality time. I think people don't know how much time they need, quality time that is, for self-care at a minimum. I don't think they are spending enough time defining what's a minimum amount of meaningful work time. And they're not defining what's a meaningful amount of time, quality time with their relationships, friends, family, spouse, otherwise. And they're not looking at the whole thing to give you scope, because again, we haven't talked about it in a bit. Like I call that the nexus of happiness, the harmony between those three things. And what I'm finding is that most people, they're still stuck in that bottom level of Maslow's hierarchy, which is a don't die feeling, as in the hunt. I need to go out and I need to find food to not die. As opposed to where the people you're discussing now, they've moved into new place. You have an abundance of resources. You actually won't die for a while, so long as you don't actually blow yourself up. You did a great job of describing that. Most people go ahead, walk back into their business and like basically just start problems to destroy things so that they have a reason to feel like they're meaningful for a minute, as opposed to like go solve the deeper problem, go look at yourself and say like, wait, what is really happiness to me? And I know that one of your sayings, I've seen it all the time. I think it's maybe even on one of your shirts, like do that, but better.
Yeah, that's our mantra at Best Hour.
Now I go one step further. It's like do less, but better. Because
Absolutely.
What you need to do is like, you need to distill all the things you're saying and then find like, what's the one through line through all of that? In my opinion, charge the most for just that thing, because that's probably the thing that you show up and it's like breathing. Like you're not struggling. You just do that because it's how you arrive in the world. And most people, I'm also realizing, didn't know that that's what people cared about. It's an aside as to why I tell people why I value them. Like, because now they know like, hey, by the way, this is what I see in you, lean on that. That's what I think your God-given talent, if you want to go so far as to like a spiritual nature, but like, I think that's your gift. Lean on that. And that, especially now in this, coming off what I'm calling the great fast of what the pandemic was, is like, we have to now realize what a relationship is. And I think people are primed to say, I'm ready to value the relationship. The other stuff is a byproduct of that, not the other way around. In the beginning, we need those resources to get to a place where we can afford enough time to be still enough to sit with that shit. Call it a naked Sunday, whatever you want. But like, I know you're a big fan of meditation and all that. It's like, sit with the thoughts that come up and you'll find it. And then, I mean, once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's a whole nother ball of wax. If you decide not to go forward with it, no wonder people will feel like a fraud, but that's a whole nother story. So,
but I think part of what you just hit on too is that's probably the foundation of it. People are uncomfortable sitting in it. And also, the other thing I would say is, I think we're still another generation away from people accepting the 40-hour work week is stupid. You and I never bought into it somehow, like luckily. But I think we're probably another generation or two, maybe one. Like I'm hoping I don't think it'll be the next one, because I don't think enough people our age believe it yet. But I think it'll be like Madison's kids, because I'm doing everything I can. And that's part of like my goal is like, I'm doing everything I can so she never has to, I don't say never has to work, but never has to do something she doesn't love. And because I think if you always get to do what you love, you'll work harder and you'll be satisfied in life. And hey, maybe there were plenty of times currently even where we're working more than 40 hours a week, but it never feels like that, because it's what we love doing. It's meaningful work. Like you said, I remember specifically from the old value drills, right? Like meaningful work is one of both of ours over time. And I cannot, when someone doesn't have health and meaningful work as their values, it's always like, look, we're all different people, but I'm like, you're going to work. So don't you want it to be meaningful? Like, where does that, why don't, and then of course, health, it's like, what's more important? So it's interesting. And I think, when you were saying that about entrepreneurs, the analogy is like, hey, cavemen got to kill, rather than eating this cow or deer or whatever we killed, let's go find the next one. I'm like, or just eat this thing that you got. Like, why don't you just chill for a minute, right? And yeah, I think a lot of people sitting in that is uncomfortable. And I think, when you and I started talking, that was a big part of it. And even our just, conversations, very few people, I think, have someone else in their life that allows them to talk like that and challenge them like that.
To that effect, I would even go so far as to say, actually, I really loved your analogy there about like, why don't you sit and eat this animal first? And because it's like almost like we're all stuck on the trophy thing. Here's my trophy kill, or here's my trophy from, or my participation award, or any sense of like, I just want to be acknowledged, not realizing that oftentimes acknowledgement is willing to sit in a space with somebody, hear their darkness, and say, cool, how are we going to get out of that? And by the way, here's where I think you're fucking up. Yeah. Maybe you start there, like, and I associate it with relationships a lot, because you're really like, think of a marriage, like you're choosing this person. You're saying like, I'm basically deciding you're the person who gets to call me on my shit for the rest of my life. And I want you to do that because our values and our end goal align.
Not I want you to do that. I need you to do that.
Perhaps both. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm just, if you're not, I'm not growing.
Yeah. But it comes from like, we're going the same direction. I don't think a lot of people sit and do that, because the scary part is in the beginning, it's, I'm lonely. I want to be accepted. I want to check the box and not feel alone. Because when you're alone, then you sit with the thoughts. What do I care about? And then if I decide I care about this enough, if I'm not doing anything about it, I'm failing. I'm sucking. And I mean, people can choose to do what they want with that. Perhaps you have a better thought on this than me, but like, I would even say entrepreneurship is more about, we're attracted to the freedom of, I'm in control of my life. I'm choosing. I have the freedom of choice in my life. I'm going to choose this discomfort over this discomfort. The discomfort of like the certainty, but like, I might not be able to do the things I want when I want to. The other one is like, I choose the uncertainty of how this is going to work out, but I have control, as like a semblance of like, it's on my terms, and I'm going to value my time the way I want to, and doing the things that I love, and I'm going to pursue it. And the pursuit is worth it to me more than even just like the other thing. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, no. If you remember Ray Kelly, who used to do some of our leadership talks with Sasha, that was one of the things I remember vividly. Two things. Something you said already that made me think of him was, once you decide this is who you are, you're going to have to lose some relationships, because not everyone's going to move forward with you or understand you. And then the second thing he said was, and I hear this all the time, I use it all the time with clients, especially those just beginning affiliate ownership. We'll get off a call and they're like, I am so excited. Like I can't wait, all this. And then I can literally wait for it. 2 minutes, I'll get a text, I'm scared. And I was like, good, I'm glad. Like, if you weren't scared, we're going to fail. Like, you better be scared. You better be like, where's my next page? Like, because that's what's going to drive you. And then eventually you need to be able to drop that baggage, but you don't need to be scared. You don't need to be afraid, but you need to have that, like, okay, that I'm in charge of my own destiny should come with equal bits sweet and equal bits like, okay, I'm in charge. So what happens? That means like, I need to set my alarm for 5 a.m. or I need to, put my head down and grind on certain days. There's a balance there. And then I think, and it's going back to the hunt, right? Like, I killed a deer. Awesome. Cool. What's for breakfast? I don't know. I got to kill something else, right? Like, it's short-lived, but that's what's motivated. That's what I look for. I mean, I get up every day, like, and I'm sure you do as well. Like, A, we're lucky that I truly enjoy what I get to do, but B, like, I need that kind of push. And, otherwise it's like, go get a 9 to 5 and punch in, punch out. Don't want any of that.
Yeah, that sounds like a prison sentence to me.
I mean, your wife does that, for the record, but yes.
And you know how I feel about the school system in general, and I have a
that's interesting topic. Sure. I've told Roz I don't want to send Madison to school, and she was like, college? I was like, no, school, like, period. And going back to what I said about we're a generation away, I think we're a generation away. I don't know who listens exactly, but this will come up.
Mostly entrepreneurs, so you're probably
Okay.
going to land.
I think we're 2 generations away from school being done. No more school. And that's not entirely true. There will always be school we always will need doctors. We will always need attorneys, accountants, the teachers amongst them. Like there's a bit hyperbole, right? But I think people like myself, people like you will promote our kids to, and I say I don't want to send her to school. When I say that, I'm not teaching her algebra, for the record. I'll find a math group. I'll find a Spanish so she learns another language, etc. But I think you'll piece together the education that they want and that excites them and how they learn best. And part of that is, if you think about secondary education, right? That's like kindergarten through why is it called secondary education? Isn't it like your first education?
I think that's primary.
Well, primary. Okay. So, but kindergarten to 12th grade, call it, right? In there somewhere. Out of your, let's look at the 4 years of high school. 7 to 8 hour days. Like, how many of those were you actually learning? Mm-hmm. Right. So my attitude is there's certainly social skills that come along with it. And I'm still going to, if you put her in gymnastics or swimming or whatever, like they're going to interact with people, potentially a more varied demographic as well, if they're going all over the place rather than just the same kids in high school. But my bigger reasoning is like, if I can accomplish all that in 3 hours for her, and now the other 5 hours are like, what do you want to do? Oh, you want to play drums? You want to swim? You want to watch me be an entrepreneur? Like, I just think it's from a time perspective smarter. Mm. Of course, I've got to run this by Ross, and then certainly I think college will disappear faster.
Well, I mean, you're already seeing that because one, people are actually looking at it as a return on investment. And when you strap yourself to a loan that you can't get out from if you declare bankruptcy, and the majority of people do not, quote unquote, go pro in the thing that they got a degree in, that should be telling us something. Maybe I've told you this. I have this dream of building a school, and it's a lot of what
you know. Yeah, you told me this like when we were a couple of years ago, even.
Yeah. So, and Lexi and I have massive fights about this. I told her not too long ago, like the thing I'm building right now basically is a school, but we start with the adults, because if you don't change the adults, and mind you, I listen to a lot of her stuff that she's been in and whatnot because of the unique gift that the pandemic availed me opportunity to listen in on and be like fly on the wall. A lot of times I just hear a bunch of children leading children, emotional children, I should say, in adult bodies. Mm-hmm. And I think, you and I are thinking backwards. Like as an entrepreneur, you think backwards from the end goal. And again, you did a great job of highlighting like, well, if I could get that goal done in 3 hours as opposed to 8, well, why would I waste 5 hours just filling it with emptiness?
Well, that's the entrepreneurial world, right? It's, relating it to CrossFit, it's a task priority workout versus time priority. Mm-hmm. Like if I can leave this, everyone listening that has a quote unquote real job, if it were task priority, meaning for time, when you're done, you think they'd work a little harder? They'd probably accomplish what happens in 8 hours in about an hour and a half to 2. They'd put their phone down. They'd, stop talking to their, colleague, neighbor, and they would grind and be like, cool, I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. And I think that's, the beauty of being an entrepreneur. And going back to what we said, like, I think we're still seeing entrepreneurs like, okay, but now what? Like, because I have to fill 40 hours. No one is saying somewhere along the way, 40 hours became the norm. Some dummy in 1920 decided that, like who's to say that was right? Like why would you not be chasing the people making more money in the fraction of the time and saying, what are they doing to get there?
Well, I think it's the fear of like, if I'm going to go that route, I'm going to have to call my own shots, and I'm going to also have to define my own value, because you're going to have to learn a skill set called selling. Like that's as simple as it is. Like if you want to afford the lifestyle that you currently have and you want to pivot to another way, you need to learn how to communicate value, hold space, listen, do all those other things. Though they don't realize they're doing it every single day, a lot of people, especially if they're bitching about their job, are doing a really shitty job of selling themselves on the next level of success because they're bitching about why their life problems are their life's problems, as opposed to asking how can they grow. So yeah, 1,000% on board with what you're saying there.
And for the record, being your own boss, your boss can be an asshole. Like you have to manage that. Like I'll give you a great example. Like for everything I'm saying, like last night it was 8:30 and Roz texted me. She's like, "Hey, you can work tomorrow." And I was like, shut it down. Right. And it was like, but you need to be, sometimes it's easier to have a boss that's like, "Hey, you work 9 to 5." Like you have to control that. And it happens far less frequently than it used to. But, and again, it goes back to like come 6 o'clock when Madison's, ready to chill and play, like I'm done. Like I don't let, we have an admin. I don't let her set calls before 8 a.m. and I don't let her set calls typically till, after 4 p.m. And I'll squeeze them in if needed, but you have to set those rules and then you have to abide by them. Like it's very easy to be like, "Oh, well, I'm booked all day today. How about 6? No, how about next week?" Like, that's when you and I was terrible at that, which then meant you were terrible at that when we had the box. But, nowadays I'm like, "No, sorry, can't. Oh, but I was going to pay you today to sign up. Cool. Pay me next week." Well, sometimes depending on how much they're going to pay you. But, point is you have to set those rules.
Well, I think what you're bringing to the table here is that I think people actually are more terrified of learning how to deal with the resource of perceived infinite time. You mean it's all up to me now? Oh my God. And I have all this time. They don't know. They're not I think the ultimate gift that is entrepreneurship is this amazing tool and more or less a euphemism for paying yourself to deal with personal development. You have a great feedback mechanism to say, if I don't create harmony in my life, this thing does not build and create prosperity the way that I want it to, both from a financial standpoint, but also like I have no time and I'm like crippling myself in the process. So yeah, I think so many people want to, it's the same thing we talked about before. It's the offloading the choice. Who's controlling my time? Do I want somebody else to tell me I'm not doing this? But that's where I think such a beautiful thing about even a marriage. Like I know for myself, and I'd be curious to see, you shared a story with Roz already, but like that was a big thing that changed when Lexi and I moved in together. I was still at the gym until like 10 o'clock at night, whatever. And she was terrified of moving in. She's like, "What am I going to see?" I was like, "I don't have a reason to go home. That's why. Like I could just work because I'm what the hell else am I doing? I'm just twiddling my thumbs otherwise." And especially if you at the time I loved what I was doing with that stuff. Like that's not something I'd want to be doing anymore. But there's a lot to be said around that as part of like who are you choosing to bring in your life to help you frame your time. And that's really, especially like, how do you want to fill your time? Do you want it to all be just work? Do you want it to all just be time with the kids or the family? Or it's like, where do you make time for yourself? I think it's really hard to navigate that. And especially if you operate from this place of like scarcity, where you just like, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough love. I don't have enough attention. I don't have enough health, whatever it is. People just run in circles, like all in on this one and now all in, max effort here, max effort. Like people doing max effort lifts on like seasons of their business. I'm like, bro, what if you slowed down a little bit and just like took a breath and work backwards from the solution? Like, how about we start there? And that you might find it might be a little slower to the on the time horizon, but you also won't destroy yourself in the process and have to like drain your both your health capital, your relational capital, your financial capital in the process to overcome those hurdles. It's just a patience game. But so
yeah, no different than a 1 rep max at the gym. Cool. Could lead to, it could lead to injury, could lead to burnout. Like rather than going for a 1 rep max once a month, how about you just chip away a little bit every day? Mm-hmm. Small, steady progress yields massive results.
As much as this is counter to what a lot of people think, like that's why I only go 70% every day whenever I work out.
Yeah, but what happens? You train, if you go 70% every day, which then allows you 1 extra day a week. So call it, instead of 4, you're working out 5 days a week. Like over the course of the year, that's 52 extra workouts. So tell me what's smarter, right? And then truth of the matter is, if someone's going 100%, they're not going to go 4 days a week either, right? It's going to be significantly bigger than that. And, same holds true with, the coursework we provide with Affiliate U. I see it right away. People dive in and they're done with the first module in like 3 days, and it's meant to be 2 weeks. And I'm like, cool, slow down, do one thing a day and do it every day, rather than doing this because I know what it's going to lead to. It's going to lead to you're going to finish the second module and then you're going to disappear. So, the analogy I use is for me, there's a couple of things, but specifically yoga. Like I want to do so much yoga and I'm too busy to do as much as I want, but I'm not too busy to do 15 minutes a day. And when I do 15 minutes a day, it leaves me craving more. Right. But I stop myself every time because I'm like, cool, come back tomorrow. And I also know, like, something you and I both talk about is, diminishing return. At some point, I'm not getting from minute 15 to minute 60, the return is significantly less than those first 15 minutes. So rather than, forcing it, cool, give or take, there's some magic in there.
There's always a little magic, but yeah, it's a concept that I come to appreciate more every day. That it's more the in my vernacular, I hear that as like minimum effective dosage. I need at least 15 minutes of yoga a day. Cool, I can do that, and I'll do it every day. And the thing I love the most of you said about is like, I want to do more tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't think about like overtraining their life. If you max out theoretically on your relationship, like, great, like, I'm tired out now. Like, I don't really want to see you today because like everything you're doing drives me nuts. I need a break. I need some breathing room. I need, like, as they say, the distance makes the heart grow fonder. Like, well, what if you built a little more distance in every day so that you're always excited to come back, and you probably bring the best version of yourself, or a more elevated version of yourself, and an inspired version of yourself to the playing field, if you will. And from my perspective, that's usually when great results happen, because people are hyped. Who doesn't want to be around somebody who's happier or more inspired, or whatever your thing is. So I love that little breakdown there, because it really brings to mind, it's like, why are people just trying to get through it? As a, like, are you just trying to get through your life? Like, that doesn't sound fun to me, because like, then, oh great, you're at the end. Did you even enjoy the rest of it?
I think, if you have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen, they're the ones that recognize that's no way to live. But I still think it's a very small percentage. And I think, again, many reasons, going back to, the few that I mentioned, and also it's just not the norm yet. Our generation, like my parents were never, it was like doctor, lawyer, whatever. Never like, hey, maybe one day you'll work for yourself and you'll, be online in this Zoom thing. Like, it was like, go get a job, So I think we need to reframe that thinking. We need to be at the forefront of that. And we are.
I sometimes forget that, but it is, I mean, I firmly believe, and I think you stand with me on this one, like, entrepreneurs are the people who are going to change the world, because it's not about, I own a business. It's more about the other stuff that we just talked about. Like, it's ultimately becomes a challenge of what my purpose on this planet. How am I building this idea, and how am I improving myself in the process? It is more about asking bigger questions, of course, when we allow ourselves to, but there's some fundamentally difficult challenges that come with taking ownership of that idea. So I'm agreeing with you 100% on that stuff. I think it's awesome.
Well, and you say like entrepreneurs are at the forefront in changing the world. And I think if you just kind of examine why, it's you probably will quickly find they're happier. Right. And if I'm happier, and many entrepreneurs have some sort of customer service going on, so you need to learn how to interact with other humans in a way that, like you said, ultimately they feel comfortable giving you money if that's your business. So you have to be able to interact better with humans. You tend to be happier because you have a more fulfilling life of doing meaningful work. I think that's how you change the world.
You got to give somebody a goal to aspire for, right? The idea of it, at least. But
absolutely,
I think we're going to move into a place now where it's more about contextualizing what that dream is, because I still think a lot of people are caught up on like, oh, that person's got the yacht and the big mansions and all that. I think we're going to settle in towards like that's one part of it. Like that's one place you can take it, but there's a thousand other ways that success like can manifest itself. And your idea of success is different than an Elon Musk or a Bezos, or like those are, and they came, like those decisions they made also came with trade-offs. There's many other ways that you can be in control of your time and value yourself. There's a lot of options now, and you have a vehicle called Zoom or Google Meets or whatever, because I don't want to be platform, culty focused on one, but we're happen to be on Zoom right now. But I think that there's something like all the tools that we ever needed to be able to kind of curate the life you want are literally at your fingertips. So I think I think you're right. The technology is leading the way and opening the space for it. And I think the mind of the people, it's going to take a few people to be like, hey, I'm kind of modeling this for you. Like you were brave enough to do that. And other people just are waiting to follow along that. So
yeah, and I tell you, the more successful I've become, the less I want, because you get fulfillment from everywhere else. Like I don't, I spend money on maybe quality food, good concert tickets, and whatever Roz and Madison want. But I think, people chase it for the wrong reasons. And I like, nothing gets me more fired up than sitting in first class looking homeless and people being like, how'd that dude wind up here? Like that's my favorite part of success. Like you chase it because you think that you want everything else. And I'm like driving around my Subaru, and that's what success is to me. Like I think when you have fulfillment from everywhere else in life, the financial stuff, it isn't what drives you anymore. Although for your listeners out there, I recommend they should buy some Bitcoin. I told you this a while ago. I'm telling you now. If you're listening, you need to buy Bitcoin. I gain nothing. That's not financial advice. And I also gain nothing, but there's an entrepreneurial spirit behind it. And I think that's why I'm enamored by it. It's proof that we can control our own destiny. We don't need other people to tell us what to do or control our money. And I think the future, put this episode in a time capsule in 20 years, there's no college and everyone's buying things with Bitcoin. I'm telling you, I bet you your entrepreneur friends are like, he's right. He's right.
People can open their minds a little bit differently when you decide to take ownership. You can just start to see like the frameworks that society put up, and we're like, well, why were they put there in the first place? And it allows you to dissolve that and be like, oh, cool. Now I see where this thing is going. That's the fundamental principle is what people buy into. People buy ideas. People buy a belief. That's what they're like. And
Simon Sinek, right? People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. And this is not about cryptocurrency. I just happen to be very aware of it these days, but look at the people supporting it. Look at the people telling you it's not going to go anywhere, and tell me who you better align with.
And who do you think is still going to be alive 30 years from now? So that's another.
Well, and the same people 25 years ago that told us the internet's a fad, like this is common cycles. And, again, like I said, I think when you watch and see who's promoting it, it's the entrepreneurs, it's the people that want to take the world to the next, level. And that's a big part of it.
I agree, man. I'm invested in some crypto stuff. So
it's not crypto's cool.
Not in Bitcoin specifically.
I'm exclusively at this point in Bitcoin. Part of it goes back to what I was saying earlier. There's rules, like you can get worked up and you can like spend hours and this and that. I'm like, cool. When I have the funds to do it, buy this one thing. I've got, others as well from prior to that. And I've got some NFTs, which I also think are going to be the future. There will be a Naked Sunday NFT. I promise you that in the future. That 100%.
I can guarantee you that much I already have had on my mind, but then
everything's gonna move, but here's the thing. Like we all see that now, like everything will be in, this is not the topic at hand, right? But everything will be an NFT, your concert ticket, your gym membership, all of that. It only exists on Bitcoin. So if you believe in this, you have to believe in that.
Fair point. It's like, look at the fundamental piece. What's the foundation of it and what's built off of it?
Right. It's the internet, right? Yeah. We're on Zoom. but we're on the internet. Zoom doesn't exist without that. Bitcoin is the internet, and everything is going to be built on top of that.
Makes sense, my friend.
And hey, there's no better time to be buying it. It's down. This is the time. There, and I know I'm being like crazy about this right now because I truly believe in it, and I think I believe there's more of a risk in people our age not investing in it than investing in it. It might go to zero, 100%, but it might go to 1 million.
That wouldn't be a bad day.
It would be a very good, we're talking 10, 20 years. I'm not crazy. Like, I don't think it's happening tomorrow.
No.
But I do believe it's happening in the future.
I love it, man. We've covered a lot of topics today. I took a look at the time, and I'm trying to be respectful of your
I gotta
time.
hop on a call. This is my late night. Actually, it's 5 p.m. in Colorado. Every other Tuesday, I do have a 5 p.m. call. But we gotta catch up. Period. In general, more often because I love chatting about this. And
welcome to my daily.
I could do it forever.
Welcome to my daily conversation cycle, right?
Yeah, and
you walked into my door.
You created this yourself. This is what it should be. You should be doing what excites you every day.
Truth, man.
And it's very apparent whether you're looking at your social media, everything you're posting, that you believe in it, you live it, you love it. And super glad that Steph signed up. I had no idea. And I will continue to tell more people to be on the lookout. And I know you have you talked about it? What you told me the other day, I don't want to give it away. Okay,
I have not.
Give it away. I don't break any news here on
keep
your podcast.
Thinking I'm trying to keep it a little speakeasy, but I don't know if it will stay that way. So we'll see.
Okay, well, I don't want to blow it, but yeah, I mean, all those things. It's awesome.
Appreciate you, man. Any parting words? Any way somebody can connect with you? And obviously, I'll put it in the show notes as well. But
the usual ways, Instagram, websites, all that good stuff. But no, if I have nothing, no agenda, nothing to push. If anything I said resonated, hit me up. I like talking just like Caleb, but it was just a pleasure to be on and chat.
Hey, I appreciate your time. I love you, bro. And I'm excited to see where the future takes us. And everybody who's listening, I will put Jay's contact, whatever social media things all there so you can follow him and connect.
OnlyFans, thinking about it only.
Just with the beard only, shorter hair and all. There you go.
Maybe that's the key.
Beard is beautiful. That could be your handle.
I like it. And let's catch up offline this week, please.
Sounds good, brother. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. You got some shenanigans out of us. We covered a lot of ground. Thanks for everybody for listening. And I remind you all, until next time, to love everybody.